Hello, welcome, welcome. I'm also joining from Telegram. So if you're joining from Telegram, feel free to send a message in the community chat. And for those of you joining on YouTube, thank you so much. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you all. Happy Wednesday from wherever you're joining us. Happy to begin this session today. It's Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. And it's 1 p.m. in Eastern Time, United States, while it's 7 p.m. West African Time in Ghana, Nigeria, and all of the West African, well, most of the West African countries. So thank you again for joining us. This is our very first Q&A for 2026. The goal is to have this on every other Wednesday or as needed. Also, we want to give room for those who have HR related questions. If you're going through an HRIS implementation at your company, this is a great place to either vent, ask questions, get feedback. If you want to test out something, a software solution, this is the place for that. So I'm looking forward to engaging with you all. So welcome aboard, welcome. And if you're joining us live again, feel free to share with your friends, your other HR members, your colleagues. Happy to have you on board. Thank you. So we're just going to go ahead and mute the phone, our microphones. Also, I know that some people are not going to be able to join due to time differences, a hectic schedule. Some of you are probably commuting to and from work, those of you in West Africa. And those of you in Eastern Time, you're probably having your lunch break right now, so you might not be able to join, or you're just busy at work. Either way, the goal is to just keep the live sessions available for you all to come back and listen to. So yeah, we're going to be recording this live and direct, raw, uncut. I'm not going to be editing anything. So just going over questions and discussing hot topics. If I don't get any questions, what we've resorted to do is check out questions related to HR, all through social media platforms. And my favorite is usually Reddit. And I think Reddit is a place where HR people feel comfortable being anonymous, where they want to submit their questions and get feedback without feeling exposed. So I know what that feels like. I've been in HR for the past 10 plus years. I know that sometimes we don't want to air out our dirty laundry. Okay, so I get it. So yeah, we'll just give it a minute for people to join. And if you have any questions, feel free to send it our way. Otherwise, we'll be going through some Reddit questions as well. All right, stay tuned. Thank you. So we have a poll in Telegram and also on YouTube. Feel free to respond to the poll. Okay, the poll is here. Yes. So if you're a newbie here, we're on YouTube and also Telegram Live right now. If this is your first time joining us, welcome again. This is HRTechish. We discuss all things HR and technology. I am your host and facilitator, Basharat Are. I am an HR technologist. I've been in the HR technology space for the past 10 years. I design, implement, configure HR systems and help with optimization and effective use and management of HR systems for organizations. We created this community to support HR professionals who have challenges with their day-to-day tasks as it relates to technology. For so many reasons, HR professionals either find themselves as not necessarily technically savvy, or they just have a little bit more difficulty managing these new HR systems in the age of AI. So with that said, this forum is here to support you all, help answer your questions. I like to get very technical and practical. So if you have any technical questions, if you're either searching for a new software at your organization or you're looking to optimize your existing workflows and processes, this is a great place to share your questions. I also mentioned that if you have any challenges, you feel like just, letting it all out with the HR community. This is a safe space. Your comments will be anonymous, so feel free to share. Now, if there are no questions, we will be just sourcing some information from Reddit. Um, that's where we find that most HR professionals feel comfortable asking questions. Okay, welcome aboard. Thank you. All right. We're 10 minutes past time. It's currently 1:10 p.m. in an East African time in the US, and it is 7:10 p.m. West African time. Okay, so if any of the polls relates to you, are you an HR practitioner? Are you more payroll? Are you more HR tech? Or are you non-HR? And if there's anything you want us to answer, you don't feel comfortable speaking, just write your question in the comment section and we will answer them. Thank you. So let's check out some of our questions on Reddit today. And again, if you notice, the topic is clinic, HRIS Clinic, so don't feel pressure to have to stay on forever. The clinic is somewhere you just go and get your symptoms checked, hopefully get a diagnosis and a prescription, and you're out on your way. So to hold you, however, you're welcome to engage in a conversation throughout the duration of our session. And please give me a thumbs up if you can hear me well. Those of you on Telegram. Let's see. Somebody wants to speak. Okay. Hello, XP. Hello, how are you? Thank you for joining.
I can hear you.
Oh, very well. Thanks for confirming. Okay, just gonna get some. Okay, so I didn't record on Telegram, so I'm just gonna do that right away. I'm gonna go ahead and start recording audio only. All right, we are now recording on Telegram and also on YouTube. We're already live on YouTube. So, again, welcome aboard. This is HR Techish Wednesday Q&A sessions, open for all HR related questions, open to HR professionals who have questions related to their technology or systems that they use in the workplace, and just any HR adjacent topics. So as promised, if we don't have any questions from our community, either on YouTube or WhatsApp or Telegram or LinkedIn or X, we are going to be sourcing questions from Reddit. I find them very interesting. So let's dive in. There's actually a Reddit thread on HRIS specifically, and a lot of questions. Sometimes there are even more questions in the HR or payroll threads. So the first question that I'm reading out today is in the Human Resources channel, and someone asked, "What is your favorite HR system? What is your favorite HR system?" And just so you know, for those of you that are not familiar, most HR systems can manage everything from your recruiting to onboarding, and then your employee data, benefits management, payroll, time tracking. Some call it workforce management. And then, of course, you have your payroll all the way to retention and benefits and compensation to the staff. We also have performance management. Some companies or some HR systems do not have the performance management solutions. They may be standalone systems. So to actually say what is my favorite HRIS, that's a really tough question to answer. It depends on for what and for whom. There are some applications that are more geared towards a specific industry. For example, in manufacturing and construction, there might be a separate HRIS, and it could just might as well be an ERP. While you have very small, not to say small, but less complex HR systems that are designed for small businesses or mid-sized businesses. So it all depends on specifically what you're considering in terms of what you would see as a favorite HRIS. So if I were to select an HRIS solution as my favorite, before I can do that, I will need to look at the user experience, the navigation, the friendliness on the screen. How many clicks does it take me to perform a function? For example, if I wanted to submit a leave request, am I clicking more than 5-10 things? Let's just say 10. Am I doing 10 things before I can submit my leave request? An ideal world is to do 1 or 2. Or an ideal world is to have one screen and I input my information with the click of a button. The workflow takes care of the rest. So I will have to look at simplicity, the UI, the user interface, the user experience, and how long it takes me to perform a function. So I cannot answer that question, but it's a good one. So for those of you out there, if you've used any HRIS in your previous company, what would you regard as your favorite HRIS? If you don't have any, that's understandable because I can't answer it. That will be biased. I'm an HR solutions consultant, and so I need to be able to have experience other HR systems before I can actually select one. And there's so many out there, so my answers would be biased. So this Reddit thread actually have a lot of people sharing things like ADP. I've used ADP. I've implemented ADP. We have ADP Payforce, so that's back in the day. We also have Workforce Now, and then most recently Lyric. I was privileged to work on an implementation with ADP where I implemented and deployed ADP Lyric workforce management solution to a healthcare client. And that was pretty interesting. It was a new product and it had a better user interface than the other ADP products that I've used in the past or implemented. So I definitely support this. Now, ADP has solutions for different tiers, mid-size, enterprise, and also for small businesses. They have run by ADP, that's specifically for small businesses, and then they have Workforce Now, Vantage, and also Lyric. Other solutions out here that I'm seeing. Okay, some people actually hate ADP. I get it. It's really related to your own experience. So that's why you can't just go off of what someone says. Most times, my experience might not be the same as yours, and I might be working in a different industry, and we may be working in a company that has a certain number of employees compared to yours. So the experience is always going to be different. And a lot of people tend to say they hate certain systems due to the implementation process. I think that's where the angst usually comes from. Okay, some people say they like Workday. Okay, some say they like UKG. I've implemented UKG. That's actually one of the systems that I got exposed to at a very early stage in my career. You had UKG Workforce Central, you had UKG Workforce Ready, and you also had UKG Workforce Dimensions. The implementation methodology is almost the same for all of those solutions because it's one company. However, the process, the workloads that it takes to implement those solutions are diverse. And then you also have the user experience and the fact that there are different solutions in there. So Workforce Dimensions is heavy on the workforce management side, anything related to time and attendance. I implemented majority of my projects were time and attendance projects, including payroll. But when we look at HR, I tend to like the user interface of UKG Pro, and that's the ultimate software before it became UKG. So yeah, a lot of interesting answers in this thread. Some are saying Bamboo HR, but I've not been hearing some good um, feedback on Bamboo HR just recently. However, in the past 2 years, when it first launched, I think everyone was on that Bamboo HR wave. It was simple. The user experience was great. Rippling was also one of those HR systems that I would say was designed for small businesses, including Gusto. But when you have had businesses using those systems for over a year or two, you learn that their user experience has not been favorable. So again, hard to tell what a favorite HRIS is. Someone said Paylocity. I don't know. Paylocity. Paycom. Oh my goodness. I don't know. Paycom has some really good use cases. There's some simplicity in the payroll process. However, when it comes to data, when it comes to some workflows, I don't know. Again, I'm speaking from an HRIS perspective. Now, the employee experience and the employee self-service features seem to be very simple. I think employees like Paycom and Paylocity a little bit better, while I think HRIS admins might have a different perspective. So yeah, give me your feedback. Some say Oracle, some say never Oracle, and Oracle is an ERP, so it's different. It's different. Yeah, we can go on and on with this one. So let's skip. All right, let's see. We also have another Reddit question here. Let's go back. Ugh. How do I shift from HR specialist to an HRIS career? Ooh, this is a good one. I joined a Twitter space last month. Shout out to Pennytree. This is a fintech solution. And I was invited to come and speak about HR technology and small businesses adopting HR systems for their businesses. And there was a question regarding how one can transition from being an HR specialist to an HRIS career path. So in this Reddit, this person says, "Hi, 24F, 24 female, currently working as an HR specialist, job title, preparing as a generalist. I am doing labor relations, HR compliance, recruitment, and some accounting work. I've been working here for about 2 years. I honestly enjoy my job. However, there might be some times when I have burnout. To be honest, salary wise, I feel I may need to just transition into HRIS career. I have experience with Microsoft Excel, with VLOOKUPs, pivot tables, and other Excel formulas. What do you think, and what steps do I need to take to transition to HRIS or HRIS analytics?" Good question. There's some really good responses here. Someone says roles related to HRIS are specific to a module. Yes. Specialization in a specific software. Yes. And specialization in the implementation of a specific software. Yes. And also data sets and the foundation of a system. So I agree on all of that. Let me read another answer just to, okay, someone said try Lean Six Sigma. Okay. Another one says easiest way is to do a lateral transfer. So that means do that within your company. Okay, and looking for experience. So this is my own answer. If you are trying to get into HRIS and you already have the HR experience, I highly recommend that you look from within. What does that mean? If you're already an HR professional working currently at a company that uses an HR system, there are two likely scenarios. You're either working and using a software that's been implemented either years back or recently, and you might be an administrator using that software. You already have some sort of experience and exposure to that software, and you want to look for opportunities. And where you can find opportunities is my day-to-day tasks in this HR system. Could it be improved? How could it be improved? And if it were to be improved, and I was given a chance, how would I improve it? So you want to actually take a proactive approach into creating a solution for your own problem as an HR admin using an HR system. If you're able to do that already, this gives you that exposure and the opportunity to speak and advocate for a project to embark on. For example, if you're an HR admin or HR specialist that's responsible for leave administration, you want to look at the gaps in your leave process with the current HRIS that you have. 9 times out of 10, there is a gap. And you want to fish out what the potential solution is. You want to design what the solution is, liaise and collaborate with someone within your department, and begin a conversation of a potential optimization. If the optimization is approved or allowed, especially if you have access to a test environment, then you've created an opportunity for yourself. So it's not an easy cookie cutter thing. A lot of us HRIS folks that got into the HRIS path, we either got in through our current jobs, working in HR, and then maybe we either had to upgrade to a new system and we're part of that project, or a company was brought in to do an implementation and we had to work with the vendor. Most individuals actually go and study information systems and they start their careers at the consulting firms like PwC, Accenture, KPMG, Deloitte, which have large human capital management divisions. And they start them out as consultants. So most of them actually hire directly from college. But if you don't have that privilege and you're already in HR, I would say you need to find a way, dig for a gap, come up with a solution and pitch that solution within your team. And hopefully you are working in a department or in the HR department where you have a manager or director of HRIS or HR that's forward thinking, that allows you all to come up with solutions. And eventually you can do that. Now, there are some ways you can prepare yourself for an HRIS role. Number one, try to do a downpour of the systems you've touched and what are some of the actions you perform in these HR systems. You want to update your profile to reflect that. You want to possibly take an HRIS course. There's a free one on LinkedIn. That's just more of a beginner course on basics of HR systems, HR technology foundations. And then you want to participate in sessions like this and join other HRIS communities and learn more, pitch yourself and let people know that you're looking for a job opportunity. There are also sometimes tester jobs or tester roles for implementation projects. So look for HR technology consulting firms. For example, we have ADP. ADP is a large company, but they have partners who actually hire individuals, consultants, or junior associates to help them with the implementation contracts that they get. So you can either transition into HRIS from within in your own company. You can upskill by learning more about HR technology, data analytics. That's a huge one. Knowing how to run reports, build custom reports, knowing how to analyze data, large data sets. It's really going to work well in your favor. So if you're in HR, you already know we do a lot of reporting on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. So that's something you should be very well versed in. The person that posted also communicated that they were really good at Excel. That's really going to go well in your favor. And then, of course, the last option that I would say is seek companies that already do HR software implementations. You might see words such as HCM vendor solutions, HCM solutions, HR technology. And also, I would say just apply for HRIS roles. Granted, the market is really tough right now. However, you can just shoot your shot, shoot your shot and see what happens. Okay. That's what I would recommend if you are trying to transition into an HRS role. So for those of you who are already in HR, stick within, upskill, and look for job opportunities with HR software companies, those companies that actually come in as consultants to support the organizations with the implementation. There's so many of them out there, so I wouldn't even begin to name them. There's Ascend, there's Work. There are also staffing agencies who are able to sell resumes of those who have been able to communicate their experience using HR systems. I remember, I think one of the HRS roles that I got, I think it was because I laid out the fact that I was an administrator and I was doing payroll management, I was running reports, I was doing analytics, and I was providing employee support with benefit enrollment rollout and also performance management rollout. So a blend of the functional and technical task also helped there. Okay, we just got disconnected on Telegram, but we are still here on YouTube. So thank you for joining, those of you that are still here. I see a question coming in. Let's see. Okay, we're back here. I'm checking the poll in the other chat. Let's see. Okay, well, it looks like we have another question coming in. Yes. Okay. So this question says, what is HR tech? What is an HR system? Can you please explain? Yes, sure. HR tech and HR systems. Let me explain better. All right. So, what is HR technology? In HR technology, well, let me just say in HR software. Let's start from there. An HR software is a software that is designed to manage HR processes. Now, there are different processes or phases within the HR realm. I like to call them the employee life cycle. So, for example, there are different stages one goes through when you get hired at a company. So, if I were to hire someone at a company, no, let's do the reverse. I'm looking for a job. My name is Bash. I'm looking for a job, and the first thing I do is look online for job postings. And most of the places that I would go is they are either applicant tracking systems, places like Indeed, LinkedIn, and so many others. There's so many new ones out there now. So let's just keep it with the basics. Those tools are what we call an applicant tracking system. That is the first stage of what we call the employee life cycle. The employee life cycle is like a wheel of fortune. You have a wheel that starts from recruiting to onboarding, because after we recruit you, then we have to onboard you. And there are many stages even within that onboarding process, and that information, the workflow in that process is managed and stored within an HR software. So, for example, you have a phone. This phone allows you to be able to send messages. You can make phone calls. You can record videos, and you can also download other apps to access other apps. So, an HR software houses most and many of the HR processes managed within an organization. So if you have a recruiting team, think about all the tasks that your recruiting team partake is done within an HR software. Now, some of them are standalone applicant tracking systems, or ATS, while some are embedded within a full HRIS. Now we move on to onboarding. During onboarding, we have to collect your employee data. We have to have your employee offer letters signed. We have to also receive your acknowledgement and company policy documents signed. And so all of those documents and all of those records have to be housed in your own profile within the organization, and that's done within the HRIS. Most companies today still manage their employees' data either using Google Workspace tools like Google Drive, or Microsoft 365 tools like SharePoint, while others actually have Excel spreadsheets or paper records or paper files, personal files, like physical paper files, and most have an HR software that they're using. So again, I'm explaining what is HR tech, what is the HR software to the person that asked that question here. So now we're moving on from recruiting. You've applied for a job, and all of the information communication that had to do with your application was managed in-house in an HR software. The onboarding process, the documents that you have to fill out, your emergency contacts, your forms, your bank details, any other information that allows the company to identify you as an employee within the organization is housed in your onboarding workflow, and also housed in the employee data management system of your HRIS. Now, when we move on from onboarding, then you're beginning to get assimilated into the company, into the organization. So once you get hired, the next things that we expect you to do as an employee is be able to record your time, either as an hourly employee or as a salaried employee, recording your time, requesting leave of absence, and also submitting any sick leave requests, things like that. That's all managed in your time and attendance module within the HRIS. So again, think about, how do employees record their time, request leave of absence? Although some companies have separate systems, some might use a Google form, some might use a Microsoft form, or they might build an internal workflow using other tools like Trello, Asana, Monday, and so many other solutions out there. While some companies actually have this process managed within their HRIS. All right. So now moving on. Remember, we're talking about the wheel. So there are employee phases in a life cycle that one goes through in the HR world. So we've talked about recruiting, onboarding, and then we're talking about time and attendance. So when it's time for you to enroll for your benefits, your company might either have a benefits portal for you to enroll in your benefits, the software or the system that allows you to select those benefit options as an employee, whether for yourself or for your family. That information, that data is also housed in an HRIS. There might be some standalone benefit management portals. However, they are integrated, or they get to be integrated with an HR technology or HR software. So if your company does not have an HR system, just imagine your HR admins are manually managing this data in outside somewhere that's not an HR software. And it can be very tedious and laborious because it's a lot of details. So now we move on from benefits to performance management or performance tracking, or some also call it performance appraisals. Some companies who are not who have not adopted an HR system might be using paper files or documents to manage and track employees' performance, while others have standalone applications to manage employees' performance. And then, of course, others have this within the HRIS, the HR software. So if you are wondering how do companies manage and keep track of their employee performances, this is done within the HR software. Outside of performance management, you also have payroll. That's the big dog, right? Once we hire our staff, we onboard them and they start working. They're submitting their leave requests. They've already enrolled in benefits. They're recording their time. All that information and all that data then flows into payroll for processing. Your rate when you were hired, the number of hours that you worked once you began working, the benefits that you enrolled in, which will lead to benefit deductions. These are all details that would then get processed through the payroll module. Some companies actually have a separate payroll system from their HR system. However, that data, your employee data, your time data, or any data that has to do with your pay can then be transitioned or transformed or sent over to the payroll system, either through an integration, or some companies, due to some inconsistent processes, may have to download and then upload the data into their payroll system. So if you are not sure what an HRIS is, always think about what are the stages of the employee life cycle that I've gone through or that I'm familiar with. Any system that manages that is what we call an HRIS. Now, don't get me wrong, we have ERPs. So enterprise resource planning systems are solutions like, let's see, Salesforce. We also have Oracle, and then we also have Workday. And that's one of probably the most common one nowadays. Those solutions have more a robust application that's not just for HR. They have it for financials, financial departments, and also for the sales and marketing department, especially for the CRM side. So if you're wondering what exactly is an HR system, an HR system can be a standalone. It can be embedded within an ERP, and it can also be something that's customized and designed separately in an organization. It may not be this big branded HR software that's popular. It can be a custom application that you built within your organization, or it can just be a simple solution that you're using to manage your HR information. So we've talked about payroll. So payroll management is very extensive. If you have any questions about that, we can definitely do. We've done some webinars around payroll management in the past. But if you want to learn more about getting into payroll and how to process payroll within the HRIS, that's definitely a topic for another day. Feel free to share your interest and also ask questions along the way. In a payroll system, all of your information related to taxes, benefit deductions, and so many other legal compliance related details are also housed in there. And then that data feeds over to the accounting department through labor accounts, final reports that was disbursed, and then finally sending it to the general ledger for reconciliation with the accounting department. So you have the system sort of like Delta, CostPoint, or NetSuite, where HR data is then mapped to be sent to the accounting department. So most HR systems have a data string from once you become a candidate to an employee, all the way to you getting paid, and of course your exit from the organization. So if your HRIS manages some or all of those HR processes, then you're at least in a good place. There are some companies that don't even have any in place. All right. So an HR software is a software that manages all of the information related to the employee life cycle. This is managed by HR administrators who have the experience to manage, track, and maintain HR data in a system. You don't have to have extensive technical experience to be able to do that, but you have to have some sort of administrative experience to be able to manage or be an administrator of an HR system. So Most HR practitioners, payroll practitioners have experience and exposure to HR systems. If this is your first time hearing about it, think about an information system. Think about your MailChimp, which is a CRM. Think about your Salesforce. Think about your Instagram. Your Instagram has information about you, and how you set it up for others to use it is exactly what it is. And you are the administrator of that solution, right? But for organizations, the HR software is a huge investment. It is a huge need within an organization, and it's something that most companies invest their time, energy, and resources in. And this is the reason why we want more HR professionals to become more technical, to come up with better solutions. They are the drivers of better, efficient systems within an organization. So I will leave you to that. If you have any other questions about what an HR software is, there are a lot of line, and we can also share some of those links to you here. Just check out the foundations of HR systems on LinkedIn. There's a course out there. And then if you have any requests to demo a software that you've come across, feel free to share. Okay, let's see if we have questions in here. Excuse me. So we have a poll in the comment section here, and the question is about the personas that closer relate to your role. Are you an HR practitioner, an HRIS analyst, a payroll practitioner, or are you non-HR? Which one relates to you directly? So we're just reading Reddit questions, so feel free to submit your questions. If there are no questions, I will continue on Reddit. So let's see if we have another question. Okay, we have a non-HR in the chat. Thank you for joining. All right, so going back to Reddit, let's see, we have 15 more minutes to. This is a good one. Okay, this question says, what's your typical day in HRIS look like? This is a fun one. So this is a question that says, I'm graduating with my bachelor's degree in HRM. Lately, I've been drawn to HRIS, but I'm curious as to what a typical workday looks like for someone in this field. Thanks a lot. So let's read one or two questions, one or two answers, and then I'll also give my own feedback. This person says, my word of HRIS is not like most. I mainly just pull reports and make them look better and simpler for the higher ups to review information. I keep info in the system up to date for the employees and help with audits, as well as some entry for payroll. If someone asked me to describe my job in one word, it would be Excel. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. And then this is a good one as well. We have another really good answer here. Let's see. Okay, I think I'll have to take two. Oh man, really good answers. Okay, let's take two more. This one says, I'm a senior HR, I'm a senior consultant for Deloitte's HCM consulting practice. Remember, I told you all that Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, just those big four consulting firms and the others in their level. They have a HCM consulting practice, and their specialty is managing the implementation of HR systems for organization or a lot of digital transformation projects within the HR department. So um, this person says, I manage client engagement for HRIS projects, including M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions, integration, compliance, change management, among other things. I started out as an analyst where I was basically an Excel monkey all day. But since moving into a consultant role, I'm more of a people person whom the client sees. I now delegate most of the technical work to my analyst team. On any day, I have a plate of about 4 to 5 major projects in different stages where I host calls or fly into meetings to discuss status, extinguish fires, wine and dine clients, and figure out how much to bill. It's tough work and took me about 10 years to get there. Before that, I was just doing HR data entry, but decided I wanted to get into more strategic role. Most HRS jobs are at the user level, and many progress up the ranks within their company into a HRS manager or director. Apt, very apt. Okay, then let's take one more answer. The other one says, I worked as an HR junior analyst, HRIS junior analyst for a couple of years, and I accepted an HRIS job with another company. It's awesome. I love the systems and the database aspect of it all. Audits are never fun, but I also do a majority of payroll prep as well. So it's a lot of verifying and confirming of data left and right. Tons of Excel and report pulling for managers all over. I'm not easily overwhelmed, but the shit, excuse me, can get rough when you have deadlines and system integrations on a tight time crunch. Oh my goodness, that is also very, very relatable. I spent a lot of time doing all these things that they all mentioned. So a typical day in the life of an HRS consultant, I would say it depends. It depends. Sometimes it can be chaotic. Sometimes, the good thing is if you are a type A personality and you get bored easily, then an HRS role is the role for you because you're always going to have something to do. If you are someone that's attentive to detail, you like working with data, and you're really good with Excel or just any database management skills, HRIS. Granted, you will excel there. So a typical day for an HRS analyst can start from my day can start from just emails, requests where users have user issues. It could be as simple as login, which can be just handed over to tier 1 tech support, or then it can be something more technical like, hey, my leave balance doesn't look correct, and we have to see maybe the configuration is not good. Sorry, I'm just getting my hair out of the way. So it can be that, and then you might be getting a lot of requests for reporting. One of the business cases for developing the HR department, most times I would say, is because we HR executives or the C-suite tend to need a lot of HR data, and sometimes the IT department does not necessarily have access to that data, nor should they have access to that data. That's a topic for another day. And so there needed to be a team that is HR adjacent, IT adjacent, who has jurisdiction and can have access to employee related data so that they can pull reports, so they can perform the data transfers and the vendor feeds that you may not feel comfortable having the IT department to touch. And I believe that for many companies was the actual business case or justification for developing an HR technology department. So what a typical day looks like for an HRIS analyst is addressing requests from C-suite level for reporting requirements, supporting HR and payroll teams with pulling data, managing data, or also improving their workflows. The goal is to always look for how to better improve the system, and also manage data integrity within the application. Things like access rights, things like workflows, what information should people be able to see, who should get what, and just really managing a tight ship within the organization. Most times, also trying to configure a new solution within the application, or helping to create documentation, or helping to configure new policies within the company. So if a new tax law is announced, whether at the state, federal, or local level, then the HRIS analyst might be brought in either by the payroll team or the HR team to find ways that that law can be managed through the HR system instead of manually by the administrator. So there's not one boring day in the HRIS world. There are a lot of things to do, from supporting employee self-service related questions, to designing better workflows, to automating manual processes, to converting documents into digitally available documents, to helping with rollouts of performance management, or performance arrangements cycles within organizations, to supporting benefit enrollment, and most importantly also supporting payroll's job, especially at companies that has over, let's say, I don't know, I would say 1,000 and up, but I'll still say 500, and really just any count of employee. Payroll's job is highly relevant or dependent on the integrity of the HR system. So if we have a good HRIS in place, and you have ready solution providers within your organization that are HRIS analysts, then it makes for a good use of your HR software. And so a typical day is like that person said, extinguishing fires. I don't like that word. However, that's typical in an HRIS world. There are times that HRIS might not be privy to some other processes that the HR team is managing. And that's because the HR ops team may have things that they're doing that does not necessarily need us, the HR technology team, to get into. And then when there are questions being asked, when there's an audit, that's when you tend to find HRIS come in, or when there's an implementation or a need for optimization. Other cases could be when your company either acquires a new company, or your company gets acquired, or there's a merger or joint venture, or let's say you're doing a mass hiring, or you're doing a RIF, or you're loading new leave policies or leave balances into your employees' data. Most HR and payroll teams would necessarily pass that on to the HRIS. So maintaining the integrity of the HR system, keeping a tight ship around it, by just maintaining and managing the information, and ensuring that good data in, good data out, helping the HR teams, the managers, the C-suite to simplify data, and helping them to understand the data is also a huge part of an HRIS's role and responsibility. I take that role very seriously. Again, it's very tedious, but it's also fun. And for those of us in this role, some may say they're neurotypical, or they just like to get busy, or they like to get their hands on. And there are some aspects of it that's actually client facing, where you're spending more time training and helping to resolve issues, helping to explain how things work, or helping to justify the need for automating a process. And you may even end up working with business analysts on the IT department if your HR team does not have one. So they're more it's a blend of functional and technical work that you get to do most of the day. And a huge part of that is also communication. You have to be able to communicate in a way that people understand the information that you're giving to them. Or if it's not an information, you have to be able to make things easier for them. So employees especially, you want employees to just focus on their job. So there are any questions that's coming in and you're trying to support your employees or your staff, one thing you should always think about as an HRIS analyst is, how can I make things easier for these employees? How can I improve the employee self-service features? How can I reduce the number of clicks it takes to perform an action? Besides the employees, then we have the HR staff. They are inundated with a lot of requests day in, day out. So a typical day for you is looking to see how you can alleviate some of the challenges that the HR teams face. And one of the ways you can be a proactive supporter is joining HR calls. There are times where I've recommended and said, hey, can I just join some of your monthly HR calls just to gauge and learn what your challenges were, to see which of those challenges can we solve with your HR software today, or maybe the next payroll cycle. The payroll teams seem to be more eager with looking for better ways to manage data, reconcile payroll information, catch errors ahead of time before they post payroll and after they post payroll, and reconciliation, and then transitioning the data to the accounting team. And then you have benefits, right? Benefits team also needs that support. So a typical day for the HRIS analyst is complex. It is like going into different directions. Again, we have all the stages within the employee lifecycle recruiting. So your recruiting team might need you to update some new job titles, or they might want to route some new workflows in there. They might want to integrate with something else, maybe a new assessment tool. Your onboarding team might say, hey, we want to change our orientation process and we need to update our onboarding checklist and our onboarding workflows. The compensation team might say, hey, we have new pay bands and pay grades and we want to implement that into the system. So you're there as a servant leader. You're there as a solution provider. You're always looking for ways to make things easier, minimize heavy workload, minimize especially manual processes, minimize paper or data use. Paper use, physical paper. Right? Even if you have a PDF outside of a system and they have to say, let's find a way to customize that document within the HRIS and centralize the entire HR operations within the application. So a typical HRIS analyst is it's fun. It's like a jack of all trades, but within a specific sector, right? So again, thank you so much for your time. We are getting to the top of the hour. I was able to answer like at least about 4 questions. I think the first one was about what is your favorite HRIS? I think the other one was about how to transition to HRIS as an HR specialist. The other question is, what is HR tech? What is an HR software, which I also explained. And then the last question was, what is a typical day in the life of an HRIS analyst? I hope that I was able to answer some of those questions. So if you were not able to join us today, make sure you join us by this time again next week. I look forward to having you all. Feel free to share with other communities that are HR related. And also for small businesses, if you have questions about setting up your HR systems or setting up your HR processes or even documents, there are a lot of resources out there. I know that, but I think most of us get inundated with this information. So this is a great place to come to help you simplify and just get your head out of everything that you're thinking of trying to implement all at once by yourself. Remember, you are not the HR technologist. We are, okay? All right. Well, thank you so much. And that's my time. I don't want to take more than an hour. So it's been great having you all join today. Again, for those of you that couldn't join, that's totally fine. Feel free to always share your questions before our next live session. And also just engage with us on all platforms, on LinkedIn, on X, on YouTube, Telegram, and also WhatsApp. We have our community from Nigeria, Ghana, and some in the US and also in the UK. It's good to have you all back. And I look forward to more engagement with this community. Thank you all. Have a great week ahead. Bye-bye. All right.